Hey folks, welcome back to FreepCast. My name is Robb Murray. I'm here with Joe Spear. Joe, some scary stuff happening the last couple of days here in Mankato with the ICE
ICE is in town or is looking at people, or we had a story Tuesday. MSU student was detained by ICE. There's so little information out on this, and we're getting most of it from the university and President Inch. Officials, police know nothing about ICE. ICE is its own little thing, and we, of course, put in a call to ICE for comment, and they don't call you back. And when they detain someone, there's no paper trail. There's no thing you can look up in the court like you could look up if someone was arrested. You could look at the arrest record, or if someone was in jail, you could look at the jail roster. But it's just such a shadowy thing. It's scary to a point. And then we had the other news break last night that 5 students, had their student visas terminated. And we're not really sure what the consequences of that are. Again, President Inch announcing it, letting the community know, calling out for support of these folks. They're gonna help them with immigration lawyers and legal counsel, and we'll just have to find out what happens next. Again, it's the troubling thing is it's so difficult to get any information on it. We know, so canceling visa is a civil, like a parking ticket, but there's still huge consequences. So you would have to no longer be home. Legal.
Yeah. They have to leave.
So they have to leave. The other one, and then there, of course, was a student in Minneapolis. Now we know that story is coming out, and he has gotten a lawyer, and they're petitioning the court saying you can't do this. And so at least that one has court records where you can find out what was going on, what happened, and what the potential legal issues are there. So we've got a lot of uncertainty about this one.
So if this is happening in Mankato, Minnesota, this is probably happening in towns this size all over the country, and I'm just wondering how long the public's going to... Right now, there hasn't been a lot of uproar, and I'm wondering how long that's going to last.
Right. Well, the scary thing is, and we're seeing it on the national scale, I think there was a report that some 300 of these visas have been canceled so far. Again, they're not telling you where, when. There were high-profile cases also of detention of students. The student at Columbia University, a Turkish student woman, was almost kidnapped in the middle of the night, or at a time during the day where people with their faces covered and nobody knew who they were. 6 big men, took her into custody, and before they could have a court challenge in Boston, she was already in Louisiana at the ICE detention facility there. So this kind of stuff is getting pretty scary. In that case, I believe there's also now legal counsel. People are challenging this thing. But she was, excuse me, taken under this 1798 law that allows the government, the president, to say anybody's a threat to our foreign security, our national security, and take them without consequence almost. So this is kind of scary. I think people are getting up in arms about that kind of thing. It harkens back to Nazis and taking people without due process and without saying anything. There are some. I think there have been some protests about the case in Boston, but it's got to work through the legal process, and I think people are. There's several protests this weekend on various things, but the cases here, we just have to again watch them play out. And of course, we know MSU has a lot of international students, 1,700 or something like that. So a big concern, and it's interesting to listen to President Inch because he is saying this is not good. These are troubling times, I think was his quote, and we've got to support these students, and they're important to our community. And it's unprecedented.
Yeah, and I know a few students up there who are extremely concerned and worried about saying anything. If you've made any kind of social media post having to do with anything about Gaza or Palestine or Israel, they're all worried about it. it seems like anything you can say right now can get you in a lot of trouble. And for some people, if you've been working here academically for 5-10 years on something, and they just tell you your visa's revoked, that's a lot of work down the drain potentially. So.
Yeah, and it's scary too, because in the case of the woman at Columbia University, the grad student, I think a year and a half ago or something, she co-authored a column, op-ed piece in the student newspaper that, was pro-Palestinian and, criticizing Israel for the killing. And that has come up as like one of the reasons why she's a threat.
I think she went to Tufts.
You're right.
Yeah.
And Columbia University is the one that's been targeted. Government wants all their money back because they're not sufficiently loyal.
Columbia, now Harvard.
Harvard is being looked at.
I hope Harvard digs in and says no. If anybody has the financial wherewithal to challenge this, it would be Harvard. They have the largest endowment in the country.
Well, and it jumped out at me too. Columbia University, of course, is one of the best journalism schools in the country.
Yeah.
And their journalism and newspaper advisor is saying, be careful, you're on your own. We don't know if we can protect you from writing things, saying things. So that's not good.
Yeah. What else we got, Joe? Who's our sponsor this week?
Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union sponsor. Thank you.
A great sponsor every week.
And again, if you're getting something out of this podcast and you're hearing things and we're letting you know as much as we can about what's going on in your community, Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union is helping us get there. So thanks to them. I don't know. It's hard to talk about the ICE stuff until we know more information. That's what makes it difficult to take a position. Well, are they supposed to be doing this? Are they not supposed to be doing this? We need some lawyers involved. We need some smart people involved, and I think we'll see that in the coming days. So we'll keep following that, keep you up to date on any development we hear about. Big thing, entertainment-wise, Bob Dylan's in town tomorrow.
Bob Dylan.
That was an interesting story. You
Minnesota
talked to some
born.
of his greatest fans, and I thought it was interesting. We're trying to find out why he's picking Mankato. It seems like his only Minnesota show is in Mankato. He was here in '96 and 2019, which seemed to me. I remember the '96 show because we had a reporter covering it and we had cameras, and that was the one where this was 1996. Granted, right? But people got up on stage. There was no security. Yep. They were dancing with him, taking his hat, doing all kinds of crazy party moves. So,
and there's a ton of full-length videos on YouTube if you want to watch that '96 concert. It's out there in its entirety.
Yeah, that is crazy. And why do you think Eric Jones? He kind of speculated why Dylan, he likes intimate places. Maybe he had good experiences the other two times he was here.
I have no idea. I really don't. If I had to pick somewhere he would want to go, I would have picked Duluth, but he's not going there. He's coming here. I mean, I think it's a special place, but there's a lot of special places out there.
Yeah.
And only he knows why.
You know what I think it is?
I don't.
I think it's the ghost of Sinclair Lewis. Sinclair Lewis, the other guy who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the U.S., wrote his book Main Street.
He wrote it right here in Mankato.
There's a house.
You can go to that house right now.
A placard over there.
Someone lives there, I think, but you can go there and look at it.
So I think it's just, what do you call that? The aura, the draw, the spiritualness of the ghost of Sinclair Lewis.
You think the ghost is guiding Bob Dylan to come to Mankato, Minnesota?
I think so. It's as good a reason as any, isn't it?
I guess if we don't know what Bob Dylan says, sure, we'll go with the ghost theory.
It's funny. Bob Dylan seems relevant right now.
Yeah, really relevant. So
if you didn't hear that, Casey over here, who's our producer, says Bob Dylan seems very relevant right now, and he does. And I talked about that with Suzanne LaFond. We talked about some of the stuff Bob Dylan's wrote about, sang about, is really
universal
relevant right now.
Still applies.
I mean, given what's happening right now with this country, I think you can go back and listen to his stuff and think he could have written that today.
Yeah. Timeless songs and lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't always happen with, musicians, like Aerosmith or someone else. I like Aerosmith.
I like some of it.
Yes, sir. So one of my favorite things that they're talking about in the news now is proposing a noise ordinance for vehicles in Mankato, mostly about the trucks and these Jake brakes. I couldn't tell you what a Jake brake sounds like if you asked me, I guess. It's really loud, but is it high-pitched? I don't know.
It's like a rumble, a roar, a growl.
Okay. Now I'm
real quick staccato.
But my and there's worries that we couldn't enforce it anyway, and then
it's impossible to enforce.
Well, I mean, if a police officer is going by and you've got a broken taillight, can they enforce that? Of course, they see it. They got to see it, right? So if they hear,
yeah, I just do we want? Is that what we want our police officers to be doing? Do we want them to be pulling over truck drivers for being too loud?
I don't know if it's only truck drivers, because it also applies to vehicles that don't have the proper muffler. And,
those guys got to get pulled over. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And they're driving around the downtowns. And that was my thing when I wrote about this is, can we stop them and say, hey, you need to fix that? I mean, let's not do a whole big thing about it, but don't let them relentlessly cruise the downtown patio areas, which it seems like it's intentional for some reason. I don't know. People are mad, I guess.
What about the Harley drivers?
About things. Harleys can be too loud also.
They can be. I mean, we're going to go after Harley guys too? I mean, that's
if it's too loud.
All-American situation there.
If it's too loud.
They are too loud, for the record.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about tariffs. That's been in the news on the front page again today. Trump raised tariffs on everybody 10%. And it's interesting. The farmers are really squawking about this a lot or raising legitimate issues. I shouldn't say squawking.
Have you seen the Dow today?
I didn't want to look.
It's not good. Hopefully by the time you guys hear this, it's recovered. But
yeah,
I think it was down 1,400 points last I looked.
That's going to happen. And the thing is, everybody knew this was sort of coming. They just didn't know to what degree. And it sounds like still there's going to be an exemption. And then for some places, maybe Canada gets an exemption on, what did I see? It probably wouldn't be tariffed right away. I don't know if it's auto parts but they say, I mean, a lot of cars that are built in the U.S. also get parts from Mexico and Canada, so those prices of those vehicles are going to go up. And Trump said he doesn't care.
I think I heard today that the average price of a car is going to go up 10%.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised. But talking about farmers and our Sunday story was about farmers and how they feel about the tariffs and it not only face the retaliation, like the Chinese are huge buyers of soybeans and pork, and so then they're going to go find it somewhere else, and you can't get those markets back right away. All of a sudden your tariff's gone. Well, guess what? They found another buyer and they're going to use them. So it can be like a permanent thing that's not good for agriculture in the area. And farmers are kind of uncertain. They say it's uncertain, so they can't plan for anything. They can't. Are they going to build a grain bin or not? Well, they were until now, and now they're not because they don't know the uncertainty of it. That was, I think, a letter to the editor talked about that, talking about farmers. So uncharted territory for sure on tariffs. We've never seen this before. And to this degree, and we'll see how it plays out, I guess. A lot of people are not liking it, and I see Amy Klobuchar got on board and got some Republicans in the Senate to go along with her to try to put a stop to the Canadian tariffs because it affects, some of the border states, Minnesota and Maine and Alaska. So Susan Collins in Maine and Lisa Murkowski in Alaska were on board. Even Mitch McConnell was on board from Kentucky. So their resolution passed to stop the Canadian tariffs.
Well, I think Mitch was afraid of the bourbon situation.
Yeah, their bourbon's getting hit hard. It's getting taxed all over.
And we're nervous about the paper situation, I would imagine.
Yes, although I did just see from our National Newspaper Association that for now, newsprint is not going to be subject. That's what I was thinking of earlier. Not going to be subject to a 25% tax. But who knows? It's a month.
He could change his mind today.
Often does. So a lot of turmoil and things to really try to be informed of, and things that are happening that affect you in ways that are financial and social. Want to make sure we give our sponsor its due here. The podcast is sponsored by Minnesota Valley Federal Credit Union, happily serving those who live, work, and do business in Blue Earth, Nicollet, LeSueur, Waseca, Brown, and Watonwan counties since 1934. Thanks to our sponsor. What else is going on? I don't have a lot else on my list, but these were big issues we talked about.
I don't have anything else that's super pressing.
Okay.
I'm not going to Bob Dylan, I'll tell you that much.
Okay. Sports. We're all done with the championship sports. Coach Strand for MSU hockey looks like he's possibly up for Coach of the Year in the nation. I think he's a finalist for that. Had a great year. Won both the conference tournament and the regular season standings. And that game they played, the first playoff game was very close, a lot closer than I thought. It
What
was
a game.
2-1, overtime. Great game. I didn't think they'd put their best foot forward the first period or two. I think they were getting beat to the puck a lot. They seemed like they had less energy, and then they kind of came back, and Tracy kept them in the game with great goaltending, unbelievable goaltending.
He was out of his mind.
And
especially in overtime.
Yeah. A
Huge
bounce
save.
here and there maybe would have swung it our way, but that's a very good team. They score an average of 4 goals. We gave them 2.
And now I think they're ranked number 1 in the country now.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see where they come out. And Gophers got beat, so both the Minnesota teams are gone out of the tournament.
That's a good thing.
UMass beat them.
When I was in Boston, I was on the plane coming home. There was a bunch of UMass parents.
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
Coming this way for the games.
Yeah. They got a good. They're in Lowell, Mass. Where are they?
They're in Boston.
They're in Boston. Okay.
There's a UMass Lowell.
Okay, that's
school,
what I'm thinking of.
And I think MSU played them about 10 years ago.
Okay. Well, anyway, great season at Mavericks, and they're going to lose some key players, so be rebuilding again, I think.
Good season. Fun to watch them.
Good season.
As always.
Absolutely. Got my quote of the week.
All right.
As I say, it's usually from our coverage. Again, this is from people we interview, people we talk to. It's not about us. It's about the community, about everyone who participates. And this comes from the first ICE story when the student was detained, and we talked to MSU professor Jamil Haq about this and the consequences of this, and taking people and detaining them for what they say or other reasons. And he says, quote, "This is really a litmus test of where you stand as an American. If you really think people's constitutional rights should be violated because you disagree with their political thinking, that's a problem." Jamil Haq, thank you. And thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, folks.